The Pacific Showdown is set to be the inaugural event for the Overwatch Path to Pro system, set to highlight smaller regions and help teams scout for the future. The Pacific Showdown will be taking place on May 24th to the 26th, and I thought that I would throw together a small power ranking to help guide you in terms of what you might be seeing during this event, what compositions, what power level, who to expect to do well, who maybe not to expect to do well. So here is your Pacific Showdown power rankings. Coming in at number 6 is T1W Esports, who are the second seed from Contenders China. T1W's rigid roster leads to problems depending on the maps picked. Mija is their de facto Zarya player, but at times he looks awkward and uncomfortable on the hero. He's known for being a very skilled Doomfist, which they try to incorporate from time to time. His understudy assassin will sub in for him on maps that call for a little bit more hit scan, but generally doesn't see too much playtime. Both players' hero pools telegraph what is going to be played, and if by chance T1W try to do something else, then things can go really sideways. This isn't too far out of the realm of possibility, as we've seen main tank Silver 3 on Genji and Doomfist, and their flex tank on DPS heroes as well. My biggest problem with T1W is that there's no category that they lead at this event. Compared to their field, they don't have any strong weapons or styles. They're not as flexible as a team like Element Mystic or O2 Blast. Their standard comps seem to have taken a hit on the new patch. They arguably don't even have the best Doomfist at the event, and their style is not as clear and defined as a team like LGE.Huya. And to be frank, I don't think their GOATS is as good as Orders. T1W Esports is going to have to lean into stylistic matchups. Many of the teams in the tournament have unorthodox strategies that play into T1W's wheelhouse. This will allow some comfort, but this will end up being a double-edged sword. This should force T1W into more preparation, which is going to add more stress to a team who just barely clinched their Showdown seed. Perhaps the only positive going into Pacific Showdown for T1W is that they don't have to travel too far to compete. At your number 5 spot, we have the Australian seed, Order. This is a team that kind of surprised me. I caught their upset of the Sydney Drop Airs live, and I was fairly impressed. I think the series was close. They're very much a standard 3-3 normal GOATS team. Going a little bit deeper, studying them a little bit closer, you start to see their style kind of come out. In particular, you see Singed, their Zarya player, on Ashe, on maps that can be a little bit more DPS centric. So we could definitely see that coming into Pacific Showdown when you have teams like Talon, when you have teams like T1W, teams like Element Mystic that are interested in playing DPS compositions. When Orders put on defense on maps like Hanamura, maps like Nepal, Blizzard World, you're going to see them maybe pull out a McCree, pull out an Ashe. It feels like Singed, his Ashe is kind of a comfort pick for the team. So they definitely will rotate to that. My question for Order is if they can actually answer and deal with all of the strange compositions. They seem like they're the one team that's based heavily in GOATS, so the onus is going to be on them to adapt and overcome to all of these strange DPS compositions, all of the Sombra, which again, we're going to see a lot of Sombra at this event, which is going to allow for other picks as we get down in the list. You'll see what I'm talking about, but all in all, Order is going to need to be able to overcome and be very flexible in what they want to do here. Coming in at number 4 is the Pacific seed, Talon Esports. Talon Esports is pretty flexible. They're made up of names you might remember. We've got Opudo from Thailand, Gogora. Muse is this main tank that I've doing my research after reviewing some of their VODs. I've been fairly impressed with his Winston in particular. And their coach is formerly from Mighty AOD and has been around in the scene for a long time. Talon Esports is a super flexible team, but they feel like the jack of all trades at the event. They can do it all, but it doesn't seem to be quite there. It was difficult for me to kind of figure out where I wanted to place the bottom 3 teams here, and Talon kind of scratches an itch that I have with Overwatch. If you followed my content over the years, I'm very keen on supporting very flexible players like Libero, players like Fleta, and Talon feels like a very flexible team, but they need a push in the right direction. They don't want to play. They feel like they don't want to play the 3-3 mirror on maps like Kings Row. They opt into a lot of Mei. They opt into a lot of DPS. Opudo popped off during their final with Genji on Junkertown, which is pretty unusual. They have these weird flex picks that lead me to believe that they're trying to force these flex picks and not necessarily play into the GOATS meta. I will say I wasn't a big fan of Opudo's Zarya or his Sombra, so they can avoid that. I think they'll have success. All in all, I think Talon could definitely fall lower on this list, but just because they look very flexible, I'm willing to give them a little bit more credit. I think Talon, Order, or T1W could swap within the bottom 3, but generally I'm pretty comfortable saying that these 3 teams are going to be the bottom middle of the pack. Coming in at number 3 is Lingan Esports Huya, who are the Chengdu Hunters Academy team and China's first seed. The beauty of LGE is that they have kind of overcome a curse this season. Before the Chengdu Hunters ingrained themselves with LGE, they were a team that never really made deep playoff runs, and now they've blown expectations out of the water and absolutely crushed their region, winning it very convincingly with kind of single-minded fury. They're a team that runs exclusively Sombra 3-3 and not much else. You can see some deviation on control maps. You might see some DPS picks. You might see a little bit of a flavor there, but for the most part, they're not playing 3-3 GOATs. In that matchup, they tend to want to opt to Sombra, and they rely on their Sombra specialist, Haker. Now, this is a guy who has a bit of a history that we won't necessarily get into, but he's come up through Open Division, played and been an absolute standout alongside T1W's standout player, Mija. They used to be on the same team. And now he's gone into contenders with a solid team, with an academy team, backing him, and done really, really, really well. He's, arguably people point to Element Mystics Sombra Doha, but Haker will match him tit for tat, do very, very well. I think people are kind of sleeping on Haker because they're not super familiar with him, but I can't sing his praises enough. Very, very talented player. And the reason why I kind of want to big him up is because he mentioned on social media that his days are numbered and that he may be retiring from Overwatch soon. So I definitely want to send him off on a good note. I think LGE.Huya have a decent chance of doing well at the event. Will they win? That's remains to be seen, we'll say. But there again, we have to talk about Molly, formerly Kelly of LGE, their flex support for a long time. Very, very talented. This is a team that's very capable of creating upsets. During the next summer qualifiers, a small third-party tournament in China that's kind of an offshoot from contenders. This tournament featured Korean and Chinese talent. LGE.Huya actually managed to beat one of the Korean representatives, Gen G, who at the time was the second place team in the region. So this is a team that can create some upsets, can surprise you. Definitely, no bias here. I'll try to leave the bias at the door. This is an exciting team. I think we could see some interesting things from them. Coming in at number 2, we have O2 Blast. Now we're getting to the end of our rope. We're getting to the Korean teams. Funnily enough, Korea is very good at esports, very good at Overwatch. O2 Blast has been a surprising team to say the least. This is the team that knocked out Runaway from their kind of fabled run through contenders this season. A lot of people expected them to do as well. This was a team that was supposed to do very well, and O2 Blast put an end to it. People expected Runaway to go to Showdown and dominate and show everybody how good they were and beat Shoes Money Crew. O2 Blast put an end to it, right? Can O2 Blast beat Shoes Money Crew? Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see till Gauntlet. But this is a team very much like LGE that is going to really put themselves on the map during this event. This is an event that highlights talent, and I think O2 is going to get a ton of praise here. You have a flex tank like Krong. I mentioned flexibility when we talked about Talon Esports. This is a guy who's popularizing a specific style. Now, is he popularizing it, or is their coach Twinkle, who, maybe some Apex fans might remember, is he popularizing it? Who's to say, right? But Krong's Hanzo into the Sombra 3-3 is actually really interesting. They put a lot of pressure on that shield, they play really aggressively, and he will find your face and rip it off with an arrow. It's disgusting. There's a clip of him popping off on Volskaya. If you're out there, definitely go find it. Very, very talented flex tank. I would not be surprised to see him scouted and brought over to the West. Myongbong, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Absolute monster on the flex support. Played very, very well on Ana and Zenyatta in the playoffs. Kaiser of C9 and Runaway. Returning to form on Reinhardt, looking absolutely lights out. Going to be one of the more dominant players at this event, especially at the main tank role. They're not afraid of the 3-3 mirror. They have opted into it in the past, but they seemingly have some creative takes on what they want to do and how they want to deal with certain team styles, and I think that probably lent itself to the decisiveness that was the Korean final. They played it on the same day. They played it shortly after. I think they had an hour of prep time to kind of go into playing Element Mystic. So I think going into this, I think they're going to have weeks and weeks of prep time. Granted, you have to prep for more teams now, but I think generally they are a very, very good team. They have the flexibility to deal with some of the weird Chinese comps, deal with the weird Talon comps. I think they match order very well. My question, again, for O2 is if they can deal with Element Mystic, and that's the big question of this entire event. Will O2 Blast be able to find innovative solutions to all the unorthodox competitions that are thrown at them? I think so. I genuinely think that they're going to be able to adapt and deal with a lot of it, and they feel like they're the most full team. They can play the 3-3, they can play unorthodox, and they do it fairly well. They feel like the upgraded jack of all trades. They feel like a better version of Talon, and that's why I think they should be postured as high on the list as they are. And last but not least, surprising absolutely no one, is Element Mystic. This is the team to beat, period. End of story. They can play goats. I think it's not their best composition, but they can and have shown to be very comfortable in playing goats. They can play Sombra 3-3 with Doha piloting the Sombra. Absolutely amazing. Some would say the best in the world. I'm not necessarily willing to give him that distinction, but I think he's one of the best, undoubtedly. Amazing talent. They can play that composition very well. This is a team that beat Runaway in the regular season to close out the season. Element Mystic beat Runaway here, so again, it shows how good this team is. And then in the finals, they continued to add iteration and threw in Sparkle's Doomfist in the mix and playing a 2-2-2 composition in what we all assumed was a very strict GOATS meta. Who is going to be able to stop them? Who is going to be able to beat them? They're so good at these specific heroes that they can adapt and change minor parts of their style to kind of adapt to the adaptation, if that makes sense. So instead of running in with the Doomfist to blow up the backline, maybe they can play on the tanks, maybe they can knock up the Reinhardt, go for shatters that way, displace bubbled targets to be able to pressure them and make them lose resources. They have a great idea of what they want to do with this Doomfist Sombra composition. Even with a 3-3 comp, they match into a lot of these teams very well. They're also a team that plays into all of the crazy stuff that we might be seeing from these Chinese teams like Talon, like T1W. They play into that very well. So if you want to opt into the, clown fiesta of, what a Chengdu Hunter's composition might be, Element Mystic have some of the best and most talented players from Korea at the moment. This is the first seed out of Korea. They're going to do incredibly well, and they're set to win the event hands down. This is your favorite. If you're looking to bet on a team, this is the team to bet on. Hopefully that painted a clear picture of what compositions we might be seeing, what teams to look out for, what players to look out for, and generally making Pacific Showdown a little bit more edible for everybody. If you like this content, let me know down below. If you want me to do a similar video for Atlantic Showdown, I would be more than willing, more than happy to. Have to brush up on my NA. I've been studying the East for a little bit, so again, let me know. Leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz, and if you want to follow my thoughts, definitely follow me on Twitter. And until next time, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.